Hi guys, it's Amanda Love Santos. Welcome back to my channel. I just want to hop on here really quickly before the tutorial starts to say thank you guys for supporting my crochet journey. Thank you guys for subscribing. If you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And I also wanted to let you guys know that I'm going to be doing this video a little bit different than I normally would. I'm going to be walking you guys through how to make this top for your specific size. So many of you guys have been asking me how to do this, and since this top is a little bit simpler than most of my tops, I figured I can give it a try. So if you guys like this style video, let me know in the comments, or if you guys think it's a little confusing or if you have any questions, also leave a comment down below, and I hope you guys enjoy the tutorial. Alright, so for the yarn I'm going to be using this Lion Brand Yarns Kobu. It's a number 3 lightweight yarn, and the makeup of it is 50% cotton and 50% rayon from bamboo. So it's really soft and has a beautiful sheen to it. And if you guys are wondering how much yarn I used, I'll leave all that information and details in the description. Now for the hooks, I'm going to be using 2 different hooks. So I'm going to use a 3.75mm hook, and I'm also going to use a 2.5mm hook. Then you're going to need a yarn needle and some markers. Along with the other materials, you're going to need a measuring tape. So you're going to be taking some measurements of yourself or whoever you're making this top for, so that it can fit their specific size. So I'm going to be making a size small, extra small. So if that's your size, then you can just follow my directions and you can skip this part completely. But if you are a different size, then I'm going to be inserting different tips throughout the whole video to help you make your custom size. So the first thing that I want to go over is the construction of the top. So just so that you guys have an idea of how we're working through the top, we're going to be starting on one of these side panels. So pretty much the first part of the tutorial, we're going to be making vertical rows here, up and down of single crochet, and then we're going to do an increase here at the top only, and then we're going to do the middle section of the top, and then we're going to decrease, and then we're going to do another side panel. Oops. So it's all going to be vertical rows that we're doing. And we're going to make our way from this side all the way to the opposite side. So the first thing that you have to figure out is how long or the length that you want your top to be. So if you have a cropped tank top that you love the fit of and it just sits perfectly and the length is great, then I would suggest that you measure that from top to bottom. Now if you don't have one, you can easily just take your measuring tape, measure from above your chest where a tank top normally sits, and then measure down your chest to your waist or wherever you want it to fall. So for me, that length is 9 inches. Now we have to adjust that number because we're increasing here by 1.5 inches, so 1.5 inches. So whatever number that you get for the length of your top, you want to subtract 1.5 inches from that number. So for me, that ends up being 7.5 inches. So that's going to be the length of your foundation chains. So for the very first step of this top, I'm doing my foundation chains based on this number. So you want to do your foundation chains based on your number. So for me, it took 37 chains to get to this measurement. So for you, chain however many chains it takes to get to your measurement. And then that's how you can kind of keep track of your sizing versus mine. So for me, I started with 37. So let's say you start with 47, then you're gonna know that there's a 10 stitch difference, and you can just keep adding 10 to all the directions that I give you. So now that we got that first part started, we can start the tutorial, and I'll keep giving you guys tips throughout the video. Alright, so I'm going to begin with a slip knot. Then with my 3.75mm hook, I'm going to crochet 37 chains, and those will be my foundation chains. Alright, now once you have 37 chains, we're going to start our first row by single crocheting into the second chain from the hook. Now that very first chain that we just skipped just now, that's not going to count as a single crochet, and we're going to single crochet into each one of these foundation chains until we reach the very end of the row. Alright, now once you complete the first row, you should have a total of 36 single crochets in that row. Now remember that the first chain that we skipped in the very beginning does not count as a single crochet. So moving on to the second round, we're going to chain 1, turn our work over, then we're going to single crochet into the very first stitch. So we're not going to skip this stitch. This is where our first single crochet is going to go. And so I'm going to insert my hook, yarn over, pull through. So that's our first single crochet in row number 2. And we're going to continue to single crochet in each one of these stitches until we reach the end of the row. Right now, once you complete the second row, you should have a total of 36 single crochets once again, and we're going to keep that same amount of single crochets in each row until we complete row number 32. So I'm going to start the next row, row number 3, the same way that I did the previous row, which is with 1 chain, turn your work, and then single crochet into the very first stitch. Then you can continue single crocheting into each stitch, and yeah, just continue adding rows of 36 single crochets in each row until you complete row number 32. Alright, so I just completed 32 rows of 36 single crochets. This is what it looks like so far. Now for row 33, we're going to begin increasing. So I'm gonna call this side that we ended on row 32 the top, and then this side I'm gonna call the bottom. And so we're gonna increase here at the top, not on the bottom. The bottom is going to stay straight the entire time. Alright, so for rows 33 through 36, we're going to increase here at the top 1 stitch in each row. So for example, row 32, we had 36 single crochets. So for row 33, we should have 37 single crochets when we complete it. So we're going to begin the same way that we normally would, with 1 chain, turn our work, and then instead of just single crocheting once into that first stitch, we're going to single crochet twice into that first stitch. So that's 1, and then that's 2 single crochets. So that was our increase. Now we're going to just single crochet into each one of these stitches 1 time. So once you complete row 33, you can count up your stitches and you should have a total of 37. Now we're going to continue increasing by 1 stitch in each row until you complete row 36. And then in row 37, I'll show you guys a little technique that we're going to add in. Alright, so I have another sizing tip for you guys. So after you complete row 36, then we're going to add a marker. So row 30, you're going to be somewhere around here. You're going to add a marker. Now if you're size small or extra small, then you can just follow my directions and add the marker where I add my marker. But if you're a different size, then your stitch marker is gonna need to go somewhere else. So I'm gonna help you guys find out where. Now, pretty much we're going to need this measurement here. So the length of your top that you're going for, whatever number that was for you. And then we're gonna need to take another measurement. This is gonna start to look like an anatomy class or something, but I promise you guys it's all relevant. So the measurement that you need to take is something that I call, because I don't know what else to call it, your boob length. The length of your boob. Pretty much just measure wherever your top is gonna sit. So like when you did that measurement in the beginning, where you measured from where a tank top normally sits on you, you want to take it from that area, and then you want to measure all the way down to where your boob begins. Alright, simple enough, right? So for me, my boob length is 6 inches. Okay, so whatever that ends up being for you is going to be your boob length. Now you want to take the length of the top, the measurement that you got in the beginning, mine was 9, and then you want to take your boob measurement and subtract it from that number. So for me, that ends up being 3 inches. So in the next step, we're going to be placing a marker. For me, that's going to be 3 inches from the bottom. So that's the sizing tip for the next step. You're going to take the length of your top, you're going to subtract your boob length, and then that will give you where to place your marker from the bottom of the panel. Alright, so I just completed row number 36, and now before we start row number 37, you want to place a marker 18 stitches from the bottom. So I just counted from the bottom 18 stitches up, and then I placed the marker in the 18th stitch. So we're going to be using this marker for our next row, and the technique that I'm going to show you guys in the next few rows is going to add some width for your bust. So you'll see what I mean in a moment, but if you're like, what's going on? I just kind of want to give you a heads up that that's what we're going to be doing. So for row 37, we're going to start off like we normally would with a chain. Turn our work over. Then we're going to continue to increase. So we're going to single crochet into this first stitch 2 times. Then we're going to single crochet into each stitch up until the marker. So I'm going to single crochet into each one of these stitches until right before the marker. Alright, now once you reach the stitch right before the marker, then you can just remove the marker. And then into the stitch where the marker was, you're going to do a slip stitch. So that completes row 37 with that slip stitch, and in total you should have 23 single crochets. So it's like this half row type of thing, and now we're going to move on to row 38. So for row 38, we're going to flip over our work and into the next stitch. So right here, I'm going to single crochet, and then I'm going to single crochet in each one of these stitches until I reach the very end, and I am going to increase in this row as well. Alright, so that completes row 38. So I increased here at the top. So in this row we had a total of 24 single crochets. And for the next 2 rows, we're gonna just increase here at the top in each one of those rows. And we're just gonna single crochet all the way across and move the marker up. So I'm gonna show you guys what that looks like, so that way you guys don't get confused with this area right here. So once you crochet across the previous row, you're going to come up to the marker here, and I'm going to just remove it for a moment, single crochet into that stitch. Then we're going to place the marker in the same stitch, but just move it to the current row. And then we're going to single crochet until we get to the last stitch. Alright, so that completes row 39, and you should have a total of 43 single crochets in row 39. Now for row 40, we're going to do the same exact thing and just single crochet into each one of these stitches, move the marker up, and then increase here at the top. And so you'll have a total of 44 single crochets in the next row, row number 40. Alright, so I just completed row number 40, and you should have a total of 44 single crochets in that row. Now moving on to row number 41 and row number 42, we're going to do that same added width technique that we just did with those little half rows. So I'm going to increase single crochet up until this stitch right before the marker, and then I'm going to slip stitch into that stitch where the marker is, come back up, increase at the top, and then we're going to move on from there. Alright, so once you complete row number 42, you should have a total of 28 single crochets in that little row. And now for row number 43 and 44, you're going to stop increasing. So we're not going to do 2 single crochets into that very first stitch of the row, of the top of the row anymore. And we're going to just do a full row of single crochets. So I'm going to chain 1, turn my work around, then I'm going to single crochet into that very first stitch, but just 1 time. And then I'm going to single crochet across the row until I get to the very end. And then the next row, I'm gonna single crochet all the way across as well, and I'm not gonna increase at the top here, just going to single crochet into the last stitch like normal. But make sure that you do move the marker up with each row. So I'm gonna do that, and I'll show you guys what to do once you complete row number 44. So once you complete rows 43 and 44, each one of those rows should have a total of 46 single crochets. So we stopped decreasing, and so it's just the same amount of single crochets in both of those rows. Now for row 45 and 46, we're going to do our last added width here, and we're not going to increase here at the top. So we're just going to chain 1, turn our work, and single crochet 1 time into the very first stitch, and then we're going to single crochet into each stitch up until this marker, and then we're going to slip stitch into the stitch of the marker and come back up. And we're not going to increase here at the top. So I just completed rows 45 and 46, and you should have a total of 28 single crochets in each one of these rows. Now we're done with the added width for now. We're going to pick it back up later, but for the next few rows, quite a few rows, until we complete row number 84, we're just going to single crochet into each one of these stitches, and we're not going to increase here at the top. So you should just have a total of 46 single crochets in each row moving forward until you complete row 84. So that's kind of self-explanatory, so I'll show you guys when I complete row 84. So I continued adding rows until I completed row 84 with 46 single crochets in each one of those rows. Alright, so I have another sizing tip for anybody who's bigger than a small or extra small, and this is going to be after you complete row 84, and then that's going to be right around here for row 84. So we haven't quite finished this middle section, and this is going to be the part that you need to add more rows to if you have a wider bust. So if you continue and you don't, then you're kind of losing your chance to make this area wider. So the measurement that I want you guys to take is going to be what I call, I don't even know what to call it. I'm just gonna call it boob spacing. I don't want you guys to get confused with like your bust measurement, because that can be confusing since we use that with our bras and everything. So pretty much your boob spacing is gonna be from the center of your boob to the center of your other boob. Now for me, this measurement ends up being 9 inches. Alright, so measure that, make sure that you have that measurement. Now we are, like I said before, we're right around here when we complete row 84. So we haven't completed this midsection yet. We still have about an inch left. But this is our chance to add more rows. So I want you guys to measure from here. So right after we finished that increasing, you're gonna clearly see it's like a little corner here. And you're gonna measure that to wherever you left off when you completed row 84. Now, for me right now, that measures to 8 inches. I know that's perfect because I have an inch left to go, and that's going to add up to 9 inches. 8 plus 1 is 9. So whatever measurement you get from when you measure from this corner to wherever you left off before the next step, if it's less than this number, then you need to add more rows of single crochets, of 46 single crochets, in order to get to that number. So I hope that makes sense. Pretty much this top part should be equal to this boob spacing measurement that we took. Now another huge tip is to make sure you know how many extra rows you added compared to mine, because I'm going to be referencing the rows based on my sizing. Now you can easily keep up if you just know how many you added extra. Maybe you added 4 extra, so you can add 4 to whatever number of rows that I'm referencing. So my row 85 is your row 89. So now that we have all of that clear, we can begin in the next step. So for row 85, before we start row 85, you want to place the marker 18 stitches from the bottom. So just count 18 stitches up, and on the 18th stitch, place your marker. Now we're gonna start that same added width technique that we're doing in this area. We're gonna start it on this side, and we're gonna make it symmetrical. So for row 85, we are going to single crochet until the stitch right before the marker. Now we're not decreasing or increasing here at the top, we're just keeping one single crochet in each one of these stitches. So once you come up to the stitch right before the marker, I'm going to remove the marker and slip stitch into the next stitch like we have been doing with the added width rows. And then I'm going to put the marker back on there and then flip over my work. And then from there, single crochet into each one of these stitches until I get back up to the top. Alright, so that completes row number 86. So both row 86 and 85 should have a total of 28 single crochets in that row. We didn't decrease, we didn't increase, so both rows have the same amount. Now for the next two rows, 87 and 88, we're going to single crochet in each one of these stitches. So that would be 87, and then coming back up is 88. And we're not going to increase or decrease at the top. We're going to keep the same amount of single crochets in each one of those rows, which will be 46 single crochets. So I'm going to do that very quickly, and I'll show you guys what to do once you complete row 88. Once you complete row 88, again you should have 46 single crochets in row 88, and then hopefully you moved the stitch marker up with each row. If you didn't, then just count 18 stitches from the bottom and then place your stitch marker, because for the next two rows we're going to do an added width again. So for row 89, we're not going to decrease, but for row 90 we will. So for row 89, we're going to begin that row with the chain, turn our work over, ouch, just stabbed myself, okay, and then we're going to single crochet in each stitch up until the stitch right before the marker, just like we have been doing. And then into the stitch where the stitch marker was, we're going to slip stitch. I'm gonna put it back on there, and then so that was row 89. Row 89 should have a total of 28 single crochets. Now for row 90, we're just going to we're going to single crochet all the way across until we get to the top, and we're going to decrease at the top. So I'll show you guys how to do that. Alright, so once you get to the last two stitches in row 90, we're going to decrease. So how I like to decrease is by single crocheting two stitches together. So all you have to do is just insert your hook into the second to last stitch, yarn over, pull through, and then insert your hook into the very last stitch, yarn over, pull through. Now you'll have 3 loops on your hook, and you're going to yarn over again and pull through all 3. So essentially that made those 2 stitches into 1 stitch. So that is our decrease. Now you should have a total of 27 single crochets in row 90 since we did that decrease. Now for row 91, we are going to do a full row, but we're going to decrease here at the top. So I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to do the same exact thing that I just did, which was single crochet 2 stitches together. So to single crochet 2 stitches together, again, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over. You'll have 3 loops, yarn over, pull through all 3. So we decreased, and now to complete row 91, we're just going to single crochet all the way across until we get to the end of the row. And then for row 92, when we're coming back up, we're going to again single crochet in each stitch and then decrease here at the top. So go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you guys what to do from there once you complete row 92. Once you complete row 92, you should have a total of 43 single crochets. So we decreased here at the top, and now for row 93 and 94, for the next 2 rows, we're going to do the added width technique, where we single crochet until this marker, come back up, and we're going to decrease in both of those rows. So once you complete row 94, you should have a total of 23 single crochets in that row. So for 93 and 94, we did decrease here at the top. And for the next 5 rows, so for row number 95 through 99, we're going to continue decreasing here at the top, and we're going to just single crochet in each stitch across. So no more added width, so we can actually remove this marker and we're not going to use it anymore. And so yeah, so just continue decreasing at the top, single crochet in each stitch, and I will see you guys once I complete row number 99. Alright, so this is what your work should look like once you complete row 99. So we continue decreasing here, and in row 99 you should have ended with 36 single crochets. And so now we're going to continue adding rows over here so that it will become symmetrical to the other side. And we're going to stop decreasing. So for the next rows, we're not going to decrease. We're going to keep 36 single crochets in each row. And we're going to do that until we complete row number 130. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I will check back with you guys once I complete row 130. Alright, now once you have completed row number 130, congratulations, we are done with this part of the top, and we can move on to the trim now because everything is symmetrical. If you fold it in half, you can definitely see that it is even. So that is exactly what you want. Obviously, if one side is way longer than the other side, then you know that you messed up, and then you can go and add rows to make it symmetrical. So I have another sizing tip for you guys, and this sizing tip is for everyone, no matter what size you are. I think this is the perfect time for you guys to try this on. I know that there is no straps yet, but just kind of wrap it around your body and look in the mirror and see how it fits. So the next step, we're going to be adding the trim. So before we add the trim, it's the perfect time to add more rows to the sides if you need them, if you want more coverage in the back. For me, I left about 4 to 5 inches of an opening because I noticed with the way that I wear my tops, I wear them kind of tight, and over time they can stretch a little bit, so I like to leave some opening in the back. But if you want a more conservative fit and like a closed back, then this would be the perfect time to add however many rows that you need to add so that it closes in the back. So go ahead and do that, and then we can move on to the trim. So once everything is symmetrical, we can move on to the trim, and we're going to start here at the top since we left off here at the top with our very last row, and we're going to do a peacock trim. It's going to be a really pretty detail here on the top. If you want, you can just opt out of it and you can do just, single crochets all the way across the entire thing, and that will be a very simple way to finish it off. But I feel like the peacock trim is going to be a very dainty and really cute detail to add. So we're going to start here in this corner, and we're going to use our 2.5 millimeter hook. Right now for the peacock trim, we're going to do a pattern of 2 single crochets and then a peacock, and then 2 single crochets and then a peacock, and then continue that pattern. So I'm going to start here in this corner. So that was our very last single crochet from the 130th row. Now into the same exact place, we're going to do a single crochet. Then from there, we're going to single crochet into the next stitch. And then we've done 2 single crochets, so now we're going to do a peacock. So we're going to chain 2. Then we're going to do a slip stitch into these 2 little loops right here. So I'm going to insert my hook behind the first loop. Then I'm going to insert my hook behind the second loop. And now you'll see I have those 3 loops on my hook. Then we're going to yarn over, bring them through all 3. And see how it makes this little peacock at the top? That's exactly what you want. Now we're going to go back to our pattern. So we're going to single crochet into the next 2 stitches. Single crochet into the next stitch. Then we're going to add another peacock. So chain 2. Then we're going to slip stitch into these 2 loops here. Then we're going to do 2 single crochets. And then a peacock. So this is what the peacock trim looks like. It's just that same pattern of 2 single crochets and then a peacock, 2 single crochets and then a peacock. And then we're just going to continue that pattern all the way across the top until we get to this other corner here. So I completed the peacock trim here on top. This is what it looks like so far. Now we're going to finish off the trim back to the corner where we began. So we're just going to single crochet across this side, across the bottom, and back to the beginning where we began. So in this corner where we left off with the peacock trim, now we're going to make the turn. So in that last stitch, we did a single crochet in that very last stitch. Now to make the turn, we're using our 2.5mm hook still, and we're going to single crochet into that very last stitch again. So that's 2 single crochets in that stitch. Now we're just, it's very simple. We're just going to single crochet all the way across the side, and when we get to this other turn, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do 2 single crochets in that turn. Then once we make the turn here in this bottom left corner, we're going to single crochet all the way across the bottom. We're going to make the turn here, single crochet up the side, and then we're going to fasten off in this corner. Alright, so I completed the trim from this corner all the way down across the bottom and then up this side. Now I'm going to show you guys how to finish off this corner. So you want to single crochet up until that very last stitch. Then we're going to slip stitch into that second single crochet in the corner. We're going to do a slip stitch, and then we're going to do a slip stitch into the next stitch as well, except we're going to pull it from the front to the back. So I'm going to kind of like flip this over for a moment, and then into that next stitch insert your hook, put the working loop on your hook, and then bring it back. and then chain 2. Then from there you can cut the yarn. And then just pull the loop through and fasten off. So that will give it a really clean edge that will look similar to the other edges. Alright, once you complete the trim, then we can move on to adding the straps. So what I did, I used some markers and I marked the peacocks on both sides right before it starts to decrease. So that's where we're going to be entering our straps into. Now, if you have watched some of my videos before, especially some of the crochet tops with straps, I'm gonna do the straps the exact same way that I always do, which is by braiding them. If you want to do it a different way, feel free. That is what I prefer to do because I really like how it looks. It looks very dainty. So if you want to go with this method, I'm going to be adding 2 straps here where I place these markers, and then it's going to go over the shoulders to the back, and then it's going to lace down the back. So for one strap, you want to cut 3 pieces of yarn at 115 inches each piece. So for 2 straps, that's going to be 6 pieces. But I'm just going to show you guys one strap. So I have 3 pieces here at 115 inches. And then I'm going to start with this strap here. You want to grab a hook. I'm going to use the 3.75 millimeter hook, and then you could take off the stitch marker now. Then you're going to insert your hook into the peacock. Then grab your 3 strands that you cut and then place them on your hook and then pull them through the peacock. It is a little bit tight. So once you have your 3 strands through the peacock, then you can take the other end, kind of match them up together, and then just pull it through to the halfway point. Then you'll have 6 pieces of yarn. And then before we start braiding, normally I would tape this part down to help me so that I could braid more easily, but I think with this type of yarn it seems like a little more delicate, so I don't want to do that. So instead I'm gonna put, like, I have a salt lamp that's really heavy, and I'm just going to like place it on there. Probably do it out of the scene of the camera. And then I'm going to separate these pieces of yarn into 3 strands. So there's 6, so I'm going to separate them into 2 pieces each so that we have 3 strands. Now the trick to braiding these really long pieces is to untangle them often. So when you see my hand go like this, I'm just pulling on this strand of yarn to kind of untangle it. Alright, so I finished braiding, and then I did the exact same thing over here on the other side. And you're gonna braid until you have about like 2-3 inches at the bottom. Then to finish it off, we're going to just tie a knot right below the last part that you braided. Alright, so then once you have both tassels, then you can just go ahead and trim them. Alright, so the very last step is to lace up the back. Now I recommend that you guys kind of try this on. I already tried mine on, and you want to kind of find the natural area where the strap kind of meets in the back. So when you try it on, kind of place these straps over your shoulder and see where the strap ends up lying. And that's what I did, and I found that this is the area that my strap was naturally falling. And so what we're gonna do, we're going to insert our hook from the back to the front in that stitch, and then we're going to bring the strap through with our hook from the front to the back. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Then once you have the straps in on both sides, then we're going to take them and just tie them loosely. We're not going to do a double knot or anything, but just something that gives it a little bit of friction so that these straps stay in place. Now that's optional, you don't have to do that, but I found after I was wearing it that this helped kind of keep the straps in place. And then we're going to take the strap from the opposite side, and then we're going to pull it through from the back to the front in this corner stitch here. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. And then we're going to cross the two straps, and we're going to lace the straps . Thank you guys for watching the video. I hope you guys liked it, and if you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed already, make sure that you're subscribed. And yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Stay creating, and I'll see you guys on the next one.